sometimes when I watch conservative media, I'm still amazed. They still can shock me to this day, even though I've been doing this for so long. They will say the thing out loud that you're like, holy shit, this was one of the things that you're only supposed to say behind closed doors, you dippy. So here is Washington Post columnist and Fox News contributor Mark Thiessen, Martha McCallum he's talking to. And look, I'll let him speak for himself. Listen to this.
We bring in Mark Thiessen, former chief speechwriter for President George W. Bush, American Enterprise Institute senior fellow, and a Fox News contributor. Mark, a lot of emotions on all sides.
So I should be clear, what they're talking about is the PGA Tour is merging with, even though they're saying it's not a merger, and they're like, don't call it a merger, they are merging with the Saudi Arabian government, the PIF, the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. And there was so there's a lot of scrutiny over this. It could potentially be blocked by the government, although I'm not sure that's going to happen. But they're having hearings in the Senate over it, and the senators are grilling them over this. Okay, so he's reacting to that.
What do you make of it?
Well, first of all, I was in the Pentagon on September 11, 2001. I felt the building shake. I smelled the smoke. I spent 3 years traveling with Secretary Rumsfeld to every battlefront in the war on terror. So I watched this unfold with my very own eyes and my ears and my senses.
So I should tell you that he's responding to the 9/11 families who have been vicious, and correctly so, against the PGA Tour for selling their soul for money to the Saudi Arabian government. And this guy was like, bro, I was in the Bush White House, so like I was on the front lines of the war on terror and stuff, so I understood exactly how bad 9/11 was and stuff. Yeah, but you guys were buddy-buddy with Saudi Arabia the entire time, knowing that most of the hijackers came from Saudi Arabia and the funding came from Saudi Arabia. You guys attacked the wrong country. You guys attacked Iraq, and you guys attacked Afghanistan. So this isn't a defense. Hey, I was part of the administration that misled everybody and pretended like it wasn't the Saudis who did this. Oh, wow, what a great guy you are. This is just adding to the point of the 9/11 victim families.
The hardest thing that we have to do in U.S. foreign policy broadly, this is not about golf, but generally, is balance U.S. interests and our concern with human rights with the fact that we need sometimes pro-American dictatorships around the world or pro-American regimes.
Quiet part out loud. Quiet part out loud. That's what just happened. Listen, I thought you guys say it all the time. You guys said this for the war in Iraq, right? You were like, listen, bro, the reason why we're doing this is because we want to like spread democracy and stuff, bro. Because we are giving everybody our freedom juice. We realize how terrible and vicious all these dictators are, and we believe in human rights and liberal values and freedom and democracy. And so that's why we're doing what we're doing. We're spreading democracy everywhere. You guys make that argument almost exclusively when it comes to foreign policy. And now all of a sudden it's like, well, the reality is sometimes you gotta, it's about dictatorships. Look, if you want to make a strategic argument that there are dictators in the world where you're not going to talk tough and act like I'm going to wag my face, you guys have to reform. So if you want to say for geopolitical strategic reasons, there's an argument to be sort of neutral vis-a-vis dictatorships. If it's necessary to have a certain, trade partnership with somebody and it's vital, it's for things that we need in this country, and you want to say, hey, take a neutral approach. We're not going to condemn, but we're also not going to endorse. That's a difference. I think that's honestly just political pragmatism. So that I'd be totally fine. He's not saying that. He's saying, hey man, sometimes you got to, be the rah-rah cheerleader for dictators. Well then, okay, do me a favor and shut the fuck up every time you guys try to bring up the we're spreading democracy. We're the world's sole superpower. We're the world policemen. And what we're doing is we're toppling dictators everywhere. Apparently not. Apparently you're sucking off many dictators. And you're literally flat out arguing in favor of doing that. God, these guys are such hypocrites. Because I guarantee you in the next breath, like I could see this guy writing an article talking about Venezuela, for example, Iran, for example, where he would say, we need to overthrow the dictators, bro. We got to bring them democracy, bro. So this argument he's making will flip on a dime when it's politically convenient for him to go after the baddie nations that we oppose. Oh my God, this is so gross.
We need sometimes pro-American dictatorships around the world, or pro-American regimes that do not have human rights records that we like or condone. This is Saudi Arabia is the only country in the Middle East that is a bulwark, is a vital bulwark against Iran, which is the real threat to American interests around the world and to our ally Israel.
Who did 9/11? Who did 9/11? What was it, like 16 of the 19 hijackers were Saudi Arabian? Where did the funding come from? Who is spreading Wahhabism and Salafi jihadism around the world? Who's doing that? Who's got the radical mosques? For those of you who don't know, and I know all of you know at this point, it's Saudi Arabia. It's Saudi Arabia. Iran is a Shia theocracy. It's not the Shia who are doing jihad. It's the fundamentalist extremist Sunnis. That's who Saudi Arabia is. And he's giving away the game here. He's like, yeah, well, we got to align with the dictatorship because the real problem is Iran. Well, why would you consider Iran the real problem if they didn't do 9/11? They didn't do a terror attack against us. Why are they the real problem? Do you care to elaborate on that? If they're not a threat to us, and they are absolutely positively not, then why are they the problem? Explain that. And then he brings up Israel, too. Oh, our friend Israel. Well, again, I thought you guys cared about democracy and freedom, and here you are, giving a smooth hand job to a country that's doing apartheid. Like, what are we talking about here, man? What are we talking about here? God, one more time.
Saudi Arabia is the only country in the Middle East that is a bulwark, is a vital bulwark against Iran, which is the real threat to American interests around the world and to our ally Israel.
Now, by the way, this entire convoluted argument that he's making, it is literally in defense of the idea that Saudi Arabia gets to buy an entire professional sport. Stop and think about that. That's really the crux of his argument. Saudi Arabia gets to buy an entire sport. Does that seem like it makes sense to you? No, the reality is money talks. And the reality is they are trying to sports wash their human rights record. And you know what? With guys like this, they're going to get away with it. Because he doesn't actually care about human rights. He doesn't actually care about justice. He doesn't actually care about the 9/11 victims' families. Ultimately, he's an elitist insider, and he's going to play the game with them. Now, by the way, just a nice little fact at the end here to sprinkle on top. The U.S. militarily supports 73% of the world's dictatorships. So in reality, this cucking ourselves to Saudi Arabia, this is par for the course, baby. So in other words, every time they made the argument about we're spreading democracy and freedom, it literally was never true. It was comically untrue. And I guess you could say at least now they're kind of admitting it, right? Like he's admitting it here. I can't imagine being condescending to and wagging your finger at 9/11 victims' families when they are unequivocally in the right. And what you're showing here is capital doesn't care. Elites don't care. At the end of the day, can you cut the check? Okay, then you're our best friend.
We can't break our relationship with Saudi Arabia. We need a strong relationship with Saudi Arabia, despite the fact that we have major disagreements on human rights. But, when President Trump was in office, he made his first trip to Saudi Arabia. He tried to forge better relations with our Gulf allies. And the result of that was 4 Abraham Accords. Not 1, not 2, 3, 4 Arab-Israeli peace accords.
That's adorable that he thinks those things are real. That is adorable. Look, they claimed we got peace in the Middle East. Wait, when people talk about peace in the Middle East, they're talking about Israel and Palestine. And they didn't address Israel and Palestine at all. They did these all virtue signaling fake, we have a new peace agreement between countries that weren't at war anyway. And by the way, why is Trump so buddy-buddy with Saudi Arabia? Could it be their financial relationship? There was a time where Trump would say, Saudi Arabia is responsible for 9/11. Saudi Arabia, they're terrorists. He used to say that. And then as soon as he got a position of power and he started sniffing some of the cash, what happened? The exact opposite now. Jared Kushner took $2 billion from Saudi Arabia. Talk about that. All the people who are obsessed with Hunter Biden. $2 billion from Saudi Arabia. Why? Because they think he's a business genius? Is that why they gave him money? No, it's pay to play. It's corruption. Everybody knows that. It's a clear and open bribe. Trump is taking at least tens of millions, probably over $100 million from Saudi Arabia for these live golf events that are happening at his course. Or his courses, I should say. In fact, they just moved their final event, their biggest event, to a Trump course. And the winner of that event, I'm not kidding you, the winners for the golf event get $50 million. If they're getting $50 million, what's Trump getting paid to host these events at his courses? I mean, this is a guy who didn't even give him a slap on the wrist when they massacred a journalist, Jamal Khashoggi, and chopped him into little pieces. Didn't even give him a slap on the wrist. There was a bill that went through the Senate which stopped our support of Saudi Arabia's genocide in Yemen. So no more weapons, no more money, no more financial support for them to do a genocide in Yemen. Trump vetoed it. He said, I'm taking the pro-genocide position. Gee, I wonder why. Could it be because of business relationships? So here he is bragging about these things. What a joke, man. What a joke. Look, I'm with the 9/11 victims' families. I'm with the idea that a theocratic dictatorship, a brutal theocratic dictatorship, does not have the right to buy an entire professional sport. I know, call me crazy. All right, guys, that's the show. Love y'all very much, man. Everybody do me a big favor. Click like, click subscribe, all that fun stuff. Make sure you click that bell icon so you get a notification every single time a video drops. As I've been telling you every day, I'm desperately trying to stay ahead of my wife in the sub count. You guys need to help me do that. I really don't want them to cross me, man. I really don't want them to surpass me. So if like 20 or 30% of you watch the show and you don't subscribe, costs you nothing, helps me out tremendously, so consider doing that. Much love to everybody who supports this show on Patreon. You guys always make it work. I've never had a conversation with advertisers. That's because of you guys. So support the show on Patreon, or if you want to support the show on YouTube, there's the thanks button below. It's like a tip. You can do that as well. And remember, go sign up for Crystal Kyle and Friends. $5 a month gets you the video of every interview, and it gets it you a day early. Everybody else could sign up for free on Substack. Again, link below. And that makes it so you can get the free audio version of the podcast a day later, usually on Saturdays. We will be talking to and potentially debating Congressman Ro Khanna this week on Crystal Kyle and Friends. So you're not going to want to miss that. All right, I love you guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.